Hello, my name is Vanessa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm continuing my year in review videos. For this video I want to talk about the most thought-provoking books that I read in 2016. The first book I'll talk about is actually a graphic novel, and that is American Born Chinese by Jean Luen Yang. This is the first ever Jean Luen Yang I've read, and this book came out quite a while ago, which is kind of sad that it took me this long to read it. This book tells 3 stories. All these stories really add upon one another, and they wouldn't really make as much sense unless all 3 were there together. The thoughts that really came to me while reading this are thinking about identity and what it means to identify with a certain culture, and I thought it was very thoughtful in the way that it talked about connecting and understanding your own culture, thinking about how in the past stereotypes have been used to diminish your culture. So it has a really great message, and it definitely made me think a lot about these themes. The second book that I wanted to talk about, you've heard me talk about so many times, kind of like a broken record here, but Kindred by Octavia Butler is one of those books that really made me think a lot about what it must have been like to live in that time period. You start at the present day, which seems a lot like our present day, and then to be taken to the antebellum South and to follow the story through the eyes of our main character. It felt so real and so serious. It made me think a lot about like the complexity of the issue, which I've definitely thought about before, but I think she does such a great job. There was a lot of time spent also on the relationship between the white slave owners and the slaves that I think is very realistic to the situation. It was a brutal and at times, strangely, there is some love to it, but you have to always keep in mind that this love comes with strings and there's no real agency. There's no question that this relationship is wrong, but it does show us that it's a complex relationship and it's not just clear-cut. Another book that made me really think a lot is The Giver by Lois, Lowry, but I had never read it before, and it really made me think a lot about sameness and like society not having individuality. While it may seem like it's perfect because it's secure, it also makes you understand that if you don't take risks in life and if you don't get to decide what you want to do when you want to do it, it takes away a lot of your humanity and makes you less of a real person and more like a robot. The next book that really made me think was Ghettoside by Leovy. This book was one of those very well done accounts of a social issue that I'm interested in. It provided a voice for all sorts of people involved in this issue. Leovy was very masterful in how she approached the subject, using history to back up the fact that this is not a relationship that has gone sour in the past few decades. It's something that has been a problem for hundreds of years. It was only like 300 something pages, but she went into a lot of things that made me think and made me start doing lots of research. The next books that I'll talk about are actually the March series. I've talked at length about this series, but I'm just gonna continue to bang my drum and tell you please go read this series if you haven't yet. I just really love Congressman John Lewis's ideas about the world and the way he portrays them to us. It made me really think a lot about how far we have come and the fact that some of the things that they were really fighting for are things that we need to make sure we are still upholding and continuing to have in our society when it comes to voting rights. The next book that I will talk about is The Immortal Life of Henrietta. I read this one for Nonfiction November just like the March series, and this was a book that made me think a lot about ethics in the medical world. I don't really think a lot about those kinds of topics. It definitely showed us that many people in our history have been taken advantage of, and nothing has been done to appease that or to say sorry, really. Another great duology, I guess, series is the Persepolis series. I read this at the beginning of this year, so like January. I'm still thinking about it and I'm still bringing it up in my videos. And it made me really think a lot about how we don't have a say in where we were born and where we were raised, and that we have to be a lot more compassionate, especially in the world that we live in today with refugees leaving their countries. And last but not least, Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer was another book that made me think a lot, and not in the same like deep themes of identity and culture and race as some of the other books that I have mentioned so far. It made me think a lot about the way that your personal recollection of an event is not necessarily what another person's recollection of an event is. Your own mind can really change facts and make your memory fuzzy in a way that changes a memory for you, and how that could really hurt other people. In this story, people died, and this author is really trying to grapple with hurting a family by trying to go back to one of the most painful events of his life while he was climbing Mount Everest. Other than that, other things that it made me think a lot about was just the bonkers idea of deciding to climb Mount Everest. Like, it made me Google so many things, it made me watch a bunch of videos to just try to get into the mindset of what these people were deciding to go upon. And yeah, it's just a fantastic book that I need to reread. So those are some books that really made me think a lot this year. That's all I have for this video. I will see you in another video. Bye bye.